tourism, it was the only way out. So with the arrival of the big tour operators from the UK, of course, we ended up having the problems that we have today.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. My guest today is a tourism pioneer. It's somebody that I met actually 40 years ago when I came here the first time. And I remember I was invited to an event organized by the Cyprus Tourism Organization, which now has a different name, but at the time, that's what it was called. He's also on the board of the Cyprus Travel Writers Association, and he is generally a man who has a lot of stories to tell. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys, George Michaelides.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
It was so nice to see you. We met recently at an event of the Cyprus Travel Enterprises Association, and I just thought that you are a perfect interview partner for my podcast because you really, really go back a long time.
Well, okay. If you are in the tourist business for more than 40 years, and you had a very lively career full of colors and also problems, of course, you have a lot to say and to tell and to remember, of course.
Definitely. Let's start from the beginning. Do you remember, when were you on a plane for the first time?
Oh, it's a very funny story. Because my father, he was a doctor, and he never traveled by air. So in '65, he took me to Germany to study there by ship, by boat.
Okay.
So we went by boat and then by train through Europe up to Munich. And then my first flight actually was in 1966.
Was that Cyprus Airways?
No, it was a flight of 1960, no, wrong, 65 in November, I think, of 1965. Of the United Arab Airlines at that time from Munich to Athens and Cairo, of course.
Oh.
But I stopped in Athens for reasons for the university for registration. But anyway, so this was my first flight.
Wow.
And then, of course, all the rest of my life was full of flights.
Living on a plane a lot or spending a lot of time on a plane. But
yes.
You grew up in Famagusta. Famagusta is the town that is now in the occupied area and which was at the time the biggest tourism town before 1974. Talk a little bit about Famagusta. How was it?
Well, you are talking to me now at the moment when I am writing a book about tourism in Famagusta from 1900 to 1974. And it was a time that it was for the world tourism a phenomenon at that time, because a place which was not known at all started emerging on the tourist map simply because some progressive people and a municipality that really was very progressive decided to develop tourism. And it started actually sometime, I would say it started already after 1960, but the real development was in 65, 66, when we had the new modern hotels directly on the beach along the coast there. And Soon, the tour operators from Scandinavia and then from Germany, of course, and other countries followed, like Switzerland, of course, and some other destinations, started looking for new destinations in alternative to Mallorca. And they thought Cyprus was, and especially Famagusta, was the ideal place. So we had a few hotels at that moment, in the 65, 66, hotels that really made Cyprus known abroad. It was the Constantia Hotel on the beach, the Florida Hotel, and then the Grecian Bay, it was not the Bay was afterwards. The Trojan, Cypriana hotels, by 1974, there were 40 new hotels and another 42 hotel apartments, which were making Famagusta a very, very cosmopolitan and successful tourism destination.
And it attracted celebrities. There were quite a lot of famous people who used to come to Famagusta, visit Famagusta, and visit the hotels, from what I know.
Yes, you have to be very careful when you say that, because some of these stories are not true.
Okay.
They were talking about Brigitte Bardot. Brigitte Bardot never came to Cyprus.
Okay.
They were talking about Elizabeth Taylor, but and Richard Burton, and this was not true. What was true, and I experienced it personally, was in 1960 when Paul Newman and Eva Marie Saint participated at the filming of the Otto Preminger's film Exodus, which was produced in Famagusta. And I remember I was at the school at that time, a schoolboy. We used to play volleyball with Paul Newman on the beach in front of the nautical club of Famagusta on the beach. And the other famous people who came, who actually started their career and they never forget it, are the Abbas, the Swedish group. And the whole thing with Abbas started when the three friends were on a holiday in Twiga Hotel apartments on the beach of Famagusta, and they gave their first performance. They were at that time not even official sort of group. They were making their performance to the Swedish United Nations troops in Famagusta. And after that successful evening that they had, they decided to form the Abba group, and the tour operators was, I think, Friedrich Resor or Wingers, I don't know, Friedrich Resor, put their picture outside the brochure, the brochure of the company of the holiday maker tour operator, the Abbas on the beach in Famagusta, actually in front of the Constantia Hotel.
Wow. You know, my husband told me that recently and I didn't believe him, but now you have confirmed it. And I have also a story about Exodus and the filming of Exodus, because that happened when my husband was born in 1960. And Andreas Dufexis, my father-in-law, who you know, was filming of Exodus instead of attending his son's birth.
Yes, I remember him because he was really filming, and I have one photo of him together with my father somewhere for the Rotary Club. And he is there, I think, doing some photography or filming at a function of the Rotary Club of Famagusta, planting trees in Famagusta.
Amazing
So,
story.
I'm sure he was doing that.
Tell me, where were you in 74? Were you in Famagusta?
I was on my way to Famagusta. I was on my way. I was, after my studies in Germany, I went to study in the UK, in Surrey. I did the tourism management degree. Anyway, we finished end of June the course. I took my car and I drove down to Germany to pick up a few things that I had there, and then to continue to Cyprus to join the army, to do my military service. And so I was outside. So I went in Freiburg. I remember I went to spend the night there, and the next morning I met someone on the street who I knew from the university, and he said to me, listen, they have killed Makarios. I said, what happened? What are you talking about? I said. He said, yes. So of course, I went to the post office there at that time. I phoned my parents, and my parents told me things are bad. There is a coup against Makarios, and it's very dangerous. Stay where you are, and we will tell you what to do.
Oh my God.
It was very bad for me to go to Cyprus to join the army in this situation.
Yeah, not a good time, but it must have been very difficult at the time because, today with all the media communication that we have and the phones and the cell phones, but at the time, as you were saying, you went to the post office to make a phone call. That's what we did then.
Yeah, of course. We didn't have all these things that we have today with communication. It was, okay, you had to go there and phone. I was staying there waiting for developments. And then the invasion took place. And then I stayed in Germany. We tried through the embassy, to get the chance to come to Cyprus to fight, because I had some sort of military training when I was at the school, when I was 16 or 17 years old. But the man there in the embassy said, "Are you crazy? There are no guns for you. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
You cannot go anywhere." So we stayed there, and following the developments there. And then with some other Greeks there, we used to run around, collect medicines and money to send to Cyprus, to refugees and to the other people. And that, okay, this was the situation at that time.
Famagusta was lost, and you did eventually come back to Cyprus. When did you start working for the Cyprus Tourism Organization?
In the 1st of May, 1976. Before, I was for a year at the Commonwealth Secretariat in London, and I was project officer in the office was in the Queen's Mother's house, in the palace there. I used to work there, but my thoughts were always in Cyprus. So in 76, I decided to apply for a job at the Cyprus Tourism Organization. It was a time when everybody wanted to leave the island, young people, because it was very difficult. But I decided to go back, and I wanted to do the work that I always wanted to do. I was, I studied economics in Germany, but then my specialization was in tourism management, so I decided to come back. And since then, from 76 to 1990 was at the Cyprus Tourism Organization.
The Cyprus Tourism Organization is now called Visit Cyprus, but they are doing the same work like you did. You were also stationed in Frankfurt, if I remember well, right?
Oh, yes, but it was very brief. It was only in Frankfurt. I was there for 3 months. But because I was responsible mainly for the German-speaking countries, I used to travel a lot to Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. And then I got involved in other pan-European tourist business, and I was nearly every weekend. I think I was in Zurich and in Brussels for the European Federation of Conference Towns. I was elected president for 4 years. And then, of course, this meant that I had to be around all the time promoting conference tourism throughout Europe to the European cities who are members of the Federation.
Fantastic. Well, I came to Cyprus in 1982 for the first time, and I still believe that the 80s were the best tourism years for the island. Of course, after Famagusta, but in the new time. It was amazing, especially for the German-speaking countries. I think we had so many people coming to Cyprus at the time.
Yeah, it was, you see, 76 to 1990, there were the difficult times. There were the times when we had to put Cyprus back onto the tourist map, to convince people that Cyprus is still an interesting place, a safe place to spend holidays. With a lot of effort, pandas, small budgets, we managed to achieve that. And so the tour operators, not only Germany, Switzerland, Austria, but also from the UK, of course, started looking into Cyprus a little bit. They were, I would say, was the beginning of the development of mass tourism. Although even at that time, early 80s, we didn't have the big tour operators to Cyprus, from England, for example. The island at that time, it was very much for the sort of English tourists that they knew Cyprus from before. They used to come as individuals, so not as groups, etc., etc. So, and that's why they used to stay in good hotels, and they thought it was their island. And suddenly, with the developments in Central Europe, especially Germany, you had the people from Turoba, TUI, the TUI group, and then, of course, Neckermann, started looking to Cyprus as an alternative to Mallorca. And there we had the developments with more and more hotels being investments in the hotel industry. So we reached fantastic numbers. If you compare it now with present situation, there were good numbers from Germany and Switzerland and Austria, which they were, and these people, they were genuine tourists, you see. They were not just arriving.
Good quality tourists.
Yes, good quality tourists and genuine tourists, which, because nowadays, we are counting tourists in a different way, which it doesn't give you the true picture of the situation, because you have you don't have the complete in the past, when you arrived to Cyprus, you had to fill in a form. And you were saying the purpose of your stay, where you're staying, for how long you are staying, and of course your country of origin, etc., etc. So we knew every week, as I remember, we had statistics, excellent statistics, because we were counting each tourist one by one. We used to collect the cards from the police, and at the CTO, we were having the best statistics in the world in tourism, because there was no other way to get to Cyprus. And now, with all these developments, you just have arrivals at the airport, and they just make rough estimates how many people are on this flight, for example, from the UK. But in these numbers, you also have Cypriots from the UK. You have a lot of people visiting friends and relatives. You have students. You have people working now, coming back and forth all the time from Greece, and then they tell you that there are so many thousand tourists from Greece.
Yeah.
Whereas we don't have a single tourist from Greece now. We
It's
just
not
have
realistic.
arrivals.
Yeah.
So at that time, we had, that's why what you said is very, very correct. There were good tourists and genuine tourists. There were people who were staying on the island on average 10 days.
And they were interested in the island, and they went on excursions, and they also didn't stay, because personally, I believe that these all-inclusive hotels have also done a lot of damage, because a lot of tavernas had to close. A lot of restaurants didn't work anymore because the people didn't go out. These tourists used to go out to eat. They were interested in local food and local people.
You see, I have an interview from a German journalist who came to Cyprus. It was, I think, in 1918 or something like that. And I said to her, she said to me, "You shouldn't make the mistakes they did in Spain and in other countries, and you should keep these clients for your island, because these people are not only interested in just the beach and the science. They like your food, they like your culture, they enjoy every minute of the island. So stick to that." And then from the numbers, she said, that I see, I think you are going to make the same mistakes and to develop it as a mass tourism destination. And I said to her, listen, I think if we get over 500,000 tourists, I will resign from my job. Because, you see, of course, things have changed a lot. You couldn't stop this trend. Who could tell someone in Cyprus at that time, in the 80s, not to develop further tourism when they were seeing that they were, it was the only way out for the development of the Cyprus economy. It was not much to do with agriculture and other industries. So tourism, it was the only way out. So with the arrival of the big tour operators from the UK, of course, we ended up having the problems that we have today. Because I'm not happy with the tourists that we have today. I'm not happy. I was one of the first, although I was working for the biggest tour operating company in Cyprus, and we were representing these tour operators. But I was telling them I'm against this idea of developing the all-inclusive business and all these other things, which And you know, when was the end of the story for me? How horrible it was. One of your colleagues, if I may call them colleagues of yours, because you were representing a tour operator, she was based in Limassol. I'm talking now in the 90s, okay?
Yeah.
She was in Limassol. She was based in Limassol it was 2 or 3 weeks in Cyprus. This woman from England, and we were sitting together having dinner at the hotel in Limassol, Poseidonia Hotel, and she didn't know that in Cyprus we have another currency. She was talking about drachma.
Oh my God.
Yes, and I thought, but what sort of people are you sending us to here to work? They don't know where they are.
That is crazy. That is crazy. But you know, that's the kind of tourists we have sometimes. People who come to Ayia Napa, they don't know that they are in Cyprus. They just think that they are in Ayia Napa. They think sometimes it's a country.
Because we had the problem at the time when they were arriving at the airport, go on the plane, arrive at the destination, then calling back home to their parents or to their friends and say, I'm Cyprus, because they went to the airport, they wanted to go on a holiday abroad. They found a cheap flight last minute. It was the time when the last minute was really very, very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
You go on the plane and they tell you now, for 20 pounds or 10 pounds, you can fly now and spend a week, including your accommodation, in Cyprus or in Mallorca or in. So the people, they just went to the airport, they pick up the ticket, paid there, and when they arrive at the destination, they call back home and say, I'm here. So it's so indifferent for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the tourists that we used to have, where they were doing the sort of reading books and listening to the radio and to the TV to find out about the destination they are going to visit, to learn the history of the country. Most of the Swiss people, my goodness, they knew the history of the island before they arrived.
And they knew sometimes better than us. You know, they knew a lot.
And when they come, they ask them questions that they discover, for example, that I remember one day I was sitting on the beach and this man came across in front of us and was selling gubes. Gubes, you know, this.
Yeah.
So, and there were 2 German tourists. They stood up and they walked there to this man and to see what he was selling. And they couldn't communicate. So I went there and I explained to them what it is, because people, they were curious. They wanted to know, they wanted to learn, they wanted to know how we make gubes.
Mm-hmm.
Not only just taste, but all these things which is part of the holiday for certain people.
Yeah.
This diaphory, this that we have by most of the tourists is it's really very bad. It's really very bad.
Yeah, nobody not being genuinely interested. Let's talk a little bit, because we're already more than halfway through, but I want to know, which is your favorite part of Cyprus? Where do you go and relax? You live in Nicosia, which is the capital, and it's inland, but where do you go to the beach?
Well, I have a house in Protaras area, the area of Konos there, which what we call it's our paradise. We built it the way we wanted to. It looks like a Greek island house in the nature, with rocks around, and the swimming pool is on the rocks. It's so it is. It's my place, and I have a small boat. I used to have a trehandiri, traditional fishing boat, Greek fishing boat, big one, 12 meters. But this was, of course, in the good old times when we were much younger and we could do things much easier. Now it's a small boat and we go along the coast and enjoy swimming away from the crowds.
Lovely. And for somebody who comes to Cyprus on holidays and who is a good tourist, who is interested in seeing something and who wants to go on 2 or 3 excursions, where should they go?
Oh, now you see, it's very interesting because in the recent years we managed to highlight it, to promote certain areas, and the type of tourism that I managed to get involved in the last 15 years is agro-tourism. So it's rural tourism and agro-tourism. It's now the thing for certain tourists to go on a bike and discover tour, to go on a walk and discover holiday, stay in agro-tourism establishments in the villages, walk down from the village down to a nearby beach, or go there by bicycle or by bus or by car, whatever it is. And this what are for me, the good tourists are doing these days. They, you see, the good tourist is not the one which is rich. You don't have to be rich to be a quality tourist. Quality tourists are demanding tourists, are the tourists that really want to discover, want to see places and experience the authentic things. More authenticity comes into the picture every day. More and more people want to do this. And these, of course, are not many. They are not from the so many millions that we say that we have in Cyprus. I assume that about 500,000 people are this type of tourists who want to discover the island, enjoy the island, and have certain experiences which are genuine and which are also traditional to Cyprus. Of course, Cyprus is not more what it used to be in the traditions, but still is it's a good place to be on a holiday. It has a certain atmosphere which is difficult to describe. It's not as picturesque as the Greek islands, but it has its own character. And for me, it's very important that in Cyprus, the tourist has access to everything without having any problem. For example, there are certain countries you go and they tell you, don't go there, you cannot go there, it's very dangerous. Don't eat that, don't drink this. You have to be careful with the locals, etc., etc. This we don't have in Cyprus. We have communication at all levels. People walk in the village, sit in the cafeneon and drink a coffee there or eat even something, have their breakfast in the cafeneon if they stay in a traditional house, agro-tourism house. So This is the life that many people like about Cyprus, and the fact that people speak at least the English language, so they can communicate. But these days, you hear everywhere also people speaking German and French and other languages.
Definitely. I think that's Cyprus is a country. It's not just a Greek island. It's a country with everything that that the tourist would need or a visitor would need. And if I can add something to that, is one thing that I love about Cyprus is the Cyprus winter. We have the most beautiful light here in the winter. We have such a long autumn. It stays warm until the end of November. It really only starts getting a little cooler at the beginning of December. And the winters are mild, and the color of the sky is so blue like nowhere else.
You see, in Cyprus, we never advertise the temperature of the sea in the winter. We always say the temperature of the air. But I happen to be the son of a doctor who used to be a swimmer all year round. My father used to every day jogging in Famagusta along the beach every day, winter and summer, swim in the sea, and it was always at 1 o'clock, so that people who were living in Famagusta on the beach, when they saw my father running along the coast, the beach, they said, it's 1 o'clock, Dr. Michaelides is there. So this, now what has to do with the temperature? It's because I am the only one who used to have the temperature of the water, of the seawater, throughout the year, because my father, when he was writing to me when I was in Germany, he was writing me a letter. And all news in the letter were from my mother. From my father were just a few words: be careful, be healthy. I was today on the beach, sea temperature so, air temperature so, shower temperature so. So he was going into the sea every day. He had the thermometer with him and he was measuring. So he was right. Now I look at all these letters of my father, which I have, and I know that in, let's say, in December of 69 or 70 or 68, the temperature of the water is so and so. But we never advertise that. I used to tell the tour operators this information, and they were amazed. But nobody else was telling. They were telling only about the air temperature. But as you very well said, the most important thing is that in the months of November, October, November, even December, the sea temperature is, of course, much higher than it is today. Today is about 20.
Yes.
Today.
I totally agree with your father, because I swim all winter and the sea never really gets cold. We are getting to the end, George Michaelides. I want to know from you, when will that book about Famagusta be finished?
The book about Famagusta, I hope before the end of this year. I'm doing a lot of research. I just discovered a good friend representing Turoba in Cyprus, Wolf Yaura. He lives now in Munich. I was asking him last night to give me some more information about the beginning of the tour operation in Famagusta in 1968 from Turoba, and 69 they signed the first agreement. So I am just collecting a lot of information because I want to give a colorful sort of It's not going to be a scientific book. It's going to be a presentation of photos and documents of tourism in Cyprus and in Famagusta, sorry. But now I decided to go back to the ancient times because the development of Famagusta, it was before it was Arsinoe, Constantia, Salamis, Alasia, and all these things. So I tried to get as much information as possible also about people who visited Barosha before, and the old city of Famagusta in the Middle Ages, and even in the ancient times in Salamis. And I think the first cultural tourist who came to Salamis was Apostle Paulus.
Paul, yeah.
Paul was the first cultural tourist who came to Salamis to start the pilgrimage.
To spread Christianity.
Yeah, to spread Christianity, and with Barnabas, he was with Barnabas, and Barnabas became the founder of the Church of Cyprus.
We are looking forward to this book, George Michaelides, and I want to thank you so much for being on my podcast episode on Most Memorable Journeys today. Thank you so much.
I thank you. I thank you for giving me this opportunity and of course, to communicate with you again after so many years.
Thank you. If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.